to look in the mirror and challenge ourselves and say, hey, I'm not measuring up here. I got to do better. How can I do better? Know thyself. Just to kind of look within and say, how can I be better? I'm not being religious here. I'm a Catholic. This is Lent. So Lent is the 40 days of really trying to reflect on where you're at in your life and a daily reflection about trying to be better. And I think, again, not to be religious, but it's an opportunity. The pandemic has challenged each and every one of us to kind of look in the mirror and try to make ourselves a little bit better and reinvent ourselves. And it always goes back to attitude. I'm a big believer in it. I used to say this all the time when I coach. 10% in life is what happens to you. 90% is how you choose to deal with it. 10% is what happens to us. 90% is how we choose to deal with it. We control that. And I love boats. I love being on a boat. I love looking out on the lake or on a river or on the ocean and seeing a boat or a ship go by. It's relaxing. And, someone said this to me one time, and it's pretty good thought. Did you ever think why boats sink? Why do boats sink? Boats sink not because of the water around them, but the water that gets inside of them. And when you think about it, why do we sink? We sink because we allow the outside stimuli to get within us and bring us down. So those challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, what we see on television, what we hear on the radio, what we read in the newspaper, what we have on the internet and social media, and all those things that just hammer us, and not just us, family members, kids. I mean, we're all getting weighed down by it. And unfortunately, sometimes it sinks people. And I go back to what I said prior to that. 10% is what happens to us. 90% is how we choose to deal with it. And we have the fight every day to not let it sink us. And to me, that's resiliency. To me, that is using the power of a positive attitude, the power of determination and toughness, and saying, I'm getting through this. I'm going to grind somehow, some way. And to me, I think that ultimately is where we're at. I mean, and when you think about it, I also look at this as an opportunity space. And in my eyes, what's an opportunity space? Opportunities exist where problems and crisis exist. Well, we've got problems. We have crisis. Well, there's an opportunity here for change. There's an opportunity here to do better, not only as a society and for governments and for companies, but more importantly for us as people. It's a great opportunity. As much as it's been a societal setback, it's also an opportunity to reinvent and change. And I'll never forget when I was a young coach, an old coach said to me, he goes, Coach, always remember this. Life is a series of problems. You're either dealing with one right now, you just dealt with one, or you're about to deal with one. Get with the program. You're a crisis manager. And ultimately, no matter what the case may be, you're going to have issues in your life that you have to deal with. And how do you get through it? How do you work your way through it? You're ultimately living a lot of times on red alert. And how do you get through being on red alert? And to me, that is something that requires a great deal of resiliency and determination and focus and vision, because that ultimately is what we're dealing with. Excuse me 1 second. Never had that happen to me before. I usually just tape my speech up so I can look right at my speech. And I'm old fashioned, just a good old piece of paper. But I'm sorry about that. Next one. There are going to be case studies done in the future about how we handle all this as a society, government, corporations, and ultimately us as individuals. There's going to be case studies, best practices, and we're creating those best practices right now. We're also creating those worst practices right now that kids in university will study this period and say, hey, that was a miscue. Someone in business school is going to say that company, that was a miscalculation. Whatever the case may be. So we're in the midst of this case study and we're living it in live time. I mean, think about it. We're on a Zoom call. Whoever did Zoom call last February? And here we are a year later, we're on a Zoom call like it's nothing. I mean, I didn't even know what it was until the whole NBA got shut down and all of society got shut down. I'm like, what is this? All these other apps, it's amazing. So to me, it's a blank canvas right now. It's all there in front of us. So many opportunities, so many things are right there for us to change our society, but most importantly, change ourselves and the ability to help others. And that's why we're all here today. The ability that we all do through basketball for West Park to have a lot of laughs and bust each other's chops and talk smack and have a few drinks and, the whole thing. Everybody it's a big schmooze. It's a lot of fun. But ultimately, the cause is incredible. The cause gives people hope. The cause brings people the opportunity to believe and to have joy in their life because they can see something. They have vision. They say, I'm going to get through this. I have resiliency. So these folks have incredible resiliency, and it's our gift to them. And it's our pat on the back saying, go get them. We got your back. Relationships. This is another one from my coaching background. And if you've heard me at all speak on SportsCenter a few different times, I've used this term, I think 2 or 3 different times over the years. When I refer about coaching, when I refer about leadership, and even it definitely applies in our own families. And that's this. We are in the people business. Relationships really matter. And I think one of the greatest problems I see in our society today, and particularly younger people, and you can look at today's young teenagers and kids, even below teenagers, they all have their cell phones. Everyone's got their head buried in the cell phone. When we are not in a pandemic and downtown Toronto is crazy and people are all over the place, you got people walking down the street with their head in the phone. We got people walking right out in front of cars because they're not paying attention, or in front of bicycles or whatever, because they got their head buried in their phone. You'll look at a coffee shop and you'll see a young gal and young guy sitting in a coffee shop having coffee. Instead of looking in each other's eyes and having a conversation, they both got their head buried in the phone. We got to do better to start not only hearing each other, but listening to each other. And I think the one thing I've learned through this whole thing is I miss people. I miss handshakes. I miss hugs. I miss kisses. I miss high fives. I miss busting chops with people. I miss hanging out and having a few beers with my buddies, or walking in some place and having a lot of laughs. It's people. It's people. It's relationships. So I hope, from an opportunity standpoint, we can look and say, hey, these telecommunication devices, and look, I work for, Bell, TSN. I work for MLSE, which is owned by Bell and Rogers and Larry Tannenbaum. So I get all that. I mean, it's an amazing medium, and it's made our lives so much more efficient. Nonetheless, the human element, the personality element, the charisma element, the connection element, the character element is so much more important. in my opinion, because that's what those relationships create change, and they create partnerships, and they create initiatives that can really have an impact on change and making everyone's lives better. So here's the statement that is one of the best things I've ever heard as a young coach. And I've tried to use it in my coaching background and in leadership, in my own home with my own kids, or with my wife, or with family members, or with colleagues at work, or you name it. Rules without relationships equal rebellion. Rules without relationships equal rebellion. Think of our society. Enough said. Part two, rules with relationships equal respect and results. Rules with relationships equal respect and results. It's time to get respect and have respect for each other. And it's time to have even greater level of productivity and greater level of results. And the way we get that is not only hearing each other, but listening to each other and communicating, maybe how we did years ago, and actually pick up the phone and talk to someone verbally on the phone, or go have a cup of coffee, or go have a beer, or have a bite to eat, or go for a walk together, and just try to, instead of sending an email to somebody, say, hey, I'm going to walk down the hall, we'll chat about it. Because as we all know, you get a text, you get an email, a lot of times it doesn't give you the full flavor of the intent and the voice of the person on the other end. And a lot of times there's misinterpretation, and a lot of times it's cold and impersonal. So that's something to reflect on, and it's a challenge too. And you know what? We're the front porch. We're the difference makers. Are we going to be the creature of circumstance and watch the parade go by? Or are we going to be the creator of circumstance and lead the parade? I think more of us, all of us, have to commit to leading the parade and being that creator and saying, hey, in my own small way, I'm going to make a difference. And I'm going to call somebody, or I'm going to reach out to somebody, or I'm going to see somebody that needs some help. And I'm going to be that person that's there for them to make a difference. You know what? Another thing, I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I think what I've learned too is cherish moments. I think we've had a lot of moments taken away from us. I hear all the time from Raptor fans about, my wedding got postponed, or my son's bar mitzvah got postponed, or, we were going on a trip for our 25th or 50th wedding anniversary to Greece or Italy or whatever, and I had to postpone it, all those things. And I would call it the challenge of cherishing great moments in our life. When you're with your family and your friends and you're having a great time, I call them heaven on earth moments. Now, again, I'm not trying to be religious here. I don't know what heaven is. I don't know what the afterlife is. I don't know any of it. But I do know one thing. We all have those moments in our life that we can make it heaven here, and make it as best as possible, and make it as joyous, for other people. And we're all trying to grind. We're all trying to be resilient. And we're all trying to celebrate that in others. And we're all trying to give that and bring that to others. So when those moments happen, let's celebrate those heaven on earth moments. Let's say, wow, this is one of those special times in my life, and I'm going to really appreciate it a little bit more, because maybe pre-COVID, I didn't. And now when I get past it, my life's still going to be crazy. My life's still going to be full of challenges, but I'm going to stop and smell the roses a little bit more, because this ain't no dress rehearsal. we get one shot. So let's do it right. I just want to wrap with a few quick things, and then I'm really excited to answer some questions. But I have three quick things that I just want to throw at you. And I've spoken about resiliency, but I've also hit on a number of other things. But here's one of the things that I just want to tag exactly what I just said. And I saw something recently, and you might think I'm an old fuddy-duddy or whatever, but I love reading Reader's Digest. And you might say, Reader's Digest? And I read, Time Magazine and Forbes and Newsweek and Sports Illustrated and, GQ and Men's Health. And I do all that, and I love to read books and all that. But I get Reader's Digest too. And you can say, why do you get that? See, because when I read it, I feel better. Sit down and read Reader's Digest. Overwhelmingly, it's just really positive. You feel better about society. You feel better about people. You feel better about where you are in your life. Well, I cut out this little piece of paper because and I actually get physical magazines. I'm not like one of those young hip people that reads on my computer. Everybody I work with, they got the laptop and all this, and I have the old book in front of me or the old magazine in front of me because that's how I like to roll. I'm old school. But I read this in Reader's Digest, and I just think it's such great food for thought. And I want to read it to you. Now, I'm getting old because I'm squinting a little bit, and I forgot my glasses, but I'll do the best I can. But this was in Reader's Digest recently. And it was this: be grateful. No matter how awful your life seems to be at the moment, you have something to be grateful for. You have been granted 2 billion seconds on this planet, give or take. You are a billionaire. Congratulations. Many billionaires, however, squander most of their fortunes on bitter recriminations about how unfair everything is. You won't get a refund from the universe for the time you spend brooding about unfairness. You lose those seconds just as surely as you lose a second spent experiencing joy, only they don't give you something nice to remember them by. So are we going to celebrate, or are we going to brood? Are we going to be grateful, or are we always going to look at it as half empty? Just something to think about. All right, last two things. The day I was hired as a head coach at Niagara University, that's a long time ago, 1989, at my press conference, one of the former coaches prior to me at Niagara University came to my press conference, and he gave me a poem. I have it in my hand. I have it in a plaque. I used to have it in my office when I was a coach. I now have it in a plaque in my den, in my office, in my house. But I want to read this to you, and it's really special. And I think it touches on a lot of the things all of us experience on a daily basis. And basically, he said to me, he goes, Jack, you're in a position of leadership at the highest level. And he goes, you're going to experience this in your long career as a leader, but you're going to experience this in your entire life. He goes, it's great. It's a great thing when you walk by it every day to look at and reflect on. So here we go. Some of you might have heard it before. Many of you haven't. It's called Anyway. People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you're successful, you win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. People favor underdogs, but really only follow top dogs. Fight for some underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you try to help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best that you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best that you have anyway. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. I just want you to reflect on this as well. And when I speak to high school kids, university kids, kids in their 20s that are trying to break into broadcasting or coaching or whatever line of work, and they come to me for advice, I always say to them, I'm going to challenge you. I want you to start to think about what the difference between being successful and significant is. Right? And when I was a high school coach in New York, I had a player that was in a very serious car accident. And I used to go visit him at the hospital. And then when he got out, I would go visit him at his home and during his recuperation. And I still have it in my den, in my desk, office desk at home. And it's a pen and pencil set. And his dad gave me a pen and pencil set for Christmas. And it's not the pen and pencil set that really matter to me. It's the note inside of it. And basically his father said to me, he goes, Jack, always remember this. He goes, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for my son. And above and beyond basketball, caring about him as a young man and his development. He goes, I want you to always know this. A man can achieve great wealth, stature, and position in society, yet fail as a person. It's all about being significant, and it's all about doing significant. And when I reflect on what we're trying to do for West Park, and more importantly, what the brave men and women at West Park are doing for others to give people hope, that's significance. And the great Lou Holtz, football coach, used to coach at Notre Dame. I'll never forget, I was at a coaching clinic one time and Lou Holtz spoke. And he talked about the dash. He says, coaches, think about it. You walk by a statue. You're in a cemetery. And you see a dash. You have the date of birth, right? The year of birth, the year of death. He goes, it's not the date of arrival. It's not the date of departure. It's all about the dash. That dash represents everything in your life and the impact you made on others. Will you make that impact? And to me, that's what it's about. And I always close when I speak with this. And I get this question all the time when I speak at basketball camps to kids. And they do, you do the question and answer thing after I, speak on pick and roll or ball handling, shooting, whatever it may be, whatever they want me to talk about, give and go, whatever the topic is that day, basketball wise. And then you do the Q&A and they ask you the question, who's your, who's this, talk about the NBA, yada, yada, yada. But there'll always be a little kid that raises her hand or his hand and they say, hey, coach, who's your hero? And they think I'm going to say Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyle Lowry, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, you all think I'm going to say that, right? Well, guess what? You're nuts. Okay? I got one hero in my life. That's my mom. My mom's 94 years old. She lives in New York City. And she's my hero. My mom and dad are immigrants from Ireland. I'm first generation. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I have 3 older brothers. And when I was 7 years old, my dad died of a heart attack. And my oldest brother was 14. My mom was a housewife and she had to go to work. And she was a school lunch lady serving breakfast and lunch every day at PS 238 in Brooklyn. If many of you are basketball fans, she used to serve Stephon Marbury breakfast and lunch every day when he was a little kid. And it wasn't easy, growing up without a dad. And, when you hear about bringing toys to families that don't have that at Christmas time, we were it. Food stamps, going to the supermarket and handing a food stamp so you had enough to eat. That was us. My mom bringing home, they would, if there was extra milk or food at the school, they allowed her to bring that home to us. So I slept on the same bed in the living room as my brother Brendan, pull out bed. Grew up in a little small apartment building in Brooklyn. And everything I have in my life is because that sweet little old Irish lady wouldn't let us go the wrong way. Brooklyn now is like Disneyland. The Brooklyn I grew up in was a rough place. A lot of crime, a lot of drugs, a lot of my friends going the wrong way. And she wouldn't let it happen. My three brothers and I have all had the opportunity we went to private high school. We had paper routes. We paid our own way through high school. We all had an opportunity to go to university and graduate. And we've all, my three older brothers have all done really well. And I'm an idiot basketball coach and announcer, but they've all done quite well for themselves. But everything I have in my life is because of her resiliency and her determination and her love for her kids. I talked to my mom this morning. I talk to my mom every single day. And I always finish the conversation with the three most magical words you can say to someone: I love you. So to me, when I think of resiliency and when I think of finding a way, I think of my mom, because I'm a byproduct of that. And my three brothers are a byproduct of that. And our families and and her grandchildren are all a byproduct of that. So I would ask each and every one of you today to reflect on those people in your life that have really made a difference to you in your life, people that have made a difference to you in your career, people who've mentored you, who've guided you, who've told you what you needed to hear rather than what you wanted to hear. They gave you tough love. And tough love is the greatest thing you can give somebody. Yeah, there's got to be a little sweetness to it too. But when you really care about someone, you tell them the truth. So I would encourage each and every one of you, when you have some time, and again, we're still in the midst of lockdown and we still have more maybe time on our hands than maybe we had pre-COVID. Reach out to those people. Reach out to them more. Reconnect with somebody that you haven't connected with in a while and let them know you appreciate them. Let them know how much you love them, because you never know what you have until you don't have it anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Can't begin to tell you how many great things you shared there that I truly identified with, starting with your mom. So anyways,
thank you.
Those were great. Thank you. From the poetry to your reading suggestions. I loved Reader's Digest as a kid. I also found them uplifting and very, yeah. So, you know what? Your comments were thoughtful and timely, like given, the complexities of today's world and society and what we're all facing in that. So, I took a lot of notes and I hope others did as well. And they were some good, great insights and wonderful advice in a lot of ways. So thank you for that.
My
So
pleasure.
we've got,
honored,
I'm sure we
honored
got
to
some
do it.
great questions. That, yeah, no, I loved, as I say, roles without relationship equal rebellion. Like I took some serious notes here, Jack. So nice, well done. Okay, so I'm gonna move us to some questions and see what our folks have to ask you. So from the Raptors seem to target. Oh, we're going to jump right into some basketball right away. You can tell.
Okay.
You can tell who the audience is, and we're passionate in that. So I'm going to take you there. The Raptors seem to target players who have overcome a lot in their life. The tragic loss of a parent before their time, for instance. Fred, Pascal, as examples. I think you moved me before I got my question done here. Sorry, you moved. You'll have to go back.
I can answer the question. I mean, I could even go with that if you want, Paul.
No, yeah. Thank you.
When I look at Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, I think that's a big part of them. If you look at Masai's career and where he's come from and where he is now, he's a worker. He's a grinder. He's a self-made man. So I think he really likes guys that have that trait within them, some fight. I mean, even you look at the Raptors last night, they lost, but that's okay. You're not going to win every night.
Yeah.
It's how you lose. It's how you fight. Do you lay down or do you keep working? Do you keep working your way through it? I mean, they started the season 2-8, and now here they are, 500 going into tonight's game against Miami. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that from the top, and I think it also comes from when Dwayne Casey was here, and now with Nick, those guys want people that have it, that have that determination and that fight, the qualities of a champion. They have high standards, they have good habits, tremendous work capacity. They're selfless, they're willing to sacrifice. Marv Levy, the Hall of Fame football coach, used to say, and again, I got my coaching hat on now, but he said it's such a great thing. And I think this defines a lot of what Masai's tried to do here is Marv used to say, ability without character always loses. You've seen so many teams with great talent, but they don't necessarily have the makeup of a winner. And I think that you can't win every year. You can't be a championship team every year, but you can put forth championship effort. And I look even last night on a night where you don't have your A game and you're not playing well, they laid it on the line. Now, tonight they could go out and play great and lose. They can go out tonight and play ugly and win. Who knows? But it's all about the fact that I think on a night-to-night basis, I think Nick Nurse looks around the room and he knows, hey, I got a good group of high-character guys that are willing to grind every night. And I think that starts at the top. And I think it's very admirable. They've made the playoffs 7 years in a row. If the season were to end today, they'd be in the playoffs for the 8th straight time. So there's something to be said for the character element of their judgment. And in scouting, we call that makeup.
Thank you. No, it's a great answer. Thanks, Jeff. What are some non-physical qualities that players need to recover from an injury and get back on the court? That's an interesting one. From an injury.
I think sometimes I think sometimes it's fear. Because when do I really push it? When do I really go hard? Like I tore my meniscus this summer playing tennis, and I'm back running again, but I haven't played tennis yet. But I'm trying to get myself in really tip-top shape again. I'm a little apprehensive. So I think a little fear, a little apprehension, because I don't want to push it yet. I think the other thing is, will I be as good as I used to be? Well, in tennis, I suck, so it doesn't really matter. But I think if you're an elite athlete, will this have a detrimental impact on how I play? Will it take away anything? I think another thing that when guys are coming back from injury is it's the old Wally Pipp story, right? Wally Pipp takes a day off with the New York Yankees. Lou Gehrig takes his spot and plays 2,130 straight games. And I used to always say to players, don't get Wally pipped. You know, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. If you're injured, you don't play. If you're hurting, you have to find a way to play through hurt because pain is in your mind. Right? I sound like Vince Lombardi here, but that's what he used to say. But, you know, those are some things that players go through that, you know, and obviously the relationship between them and the therapist, the relationship between them and the trainer and the doctor, making sure that all the messages are on point and there's a plan and a vision for what we're trying to shoot for. What's vision? Vision, seeing the end product before you start the journey. So to me, I think there's a lot of mental variables in place for athletes. And a lot of it comes down to just these guys are remarkably resilient. They push through a lot. You know, a lot of these guys have had multiple surgeries, particularly you look at high contact sports like hockey and football. I mean, you know, a lot of them have some major injuries. So there's a lot to work through.
Thank you. Okay, here's a sort of a timely one, but do you think it's a good idea to have an NBA All-Star game this year? That's obviously a big topic of discussion of late.
Me personally, I disagree with it. Now I understand, as all of you know, money drives the bus, and the NBA has a 9-year, $24 billion US TV deal. And, you know, right now without fans in the arena, in the overwhelming majority of our 30 arenas, and with Toronto playing in Tampa, and even if arenas have fans, it's at a very small number. The NBA is looking and saying, how do we make money? And how do we give return on investment to our television partners, Disney, and which is ESPN and ABC in the US, and Turner, which is TNT, TBS as well in the US. And then they also have TV partners in Canada. They have TV partners all around the US on local games and radio partners. So they're looking to try to scratch back as much as they can. And the players union, in spite of the fact that the players were vocal about it, that game doesn't happen without a collaborative partnership between Michelle Roberts and Chris Paul from the Players Union and Adam Silver and the NBA and his 30 partners and the NBA owners. So ultimately, would I think it'd be better if all our players had a week off, considering it's a condensed schedule and it was a shorter off season? Yes, definitely. I wish that were the case. On the other hand, from a business perspective, I understand completely why they're doing it, and I have to respect their judgment because they're a heck of a lot smarter than I
am. Thank you. How do you think playing away from Toronto is impacting the Raptors this season?
I think it's been tough on a few fronts. Number one, it's upheaval for everybody. I mean, without saying. I mean, that goes without saying. I think number two, Toronto traditionally is in the top 5 year in, year out in attendance. So you lose a home court advantage. We have great fans. You look at our in-house attendance numbers. You look at our TV ratings. You look at the crazy fans that we have. And, you know, it's interesting, as an American and as a New Yorker, which New York's supposed to be the mecca of basketball, when you start, if you did your research on the TV ratings in Canada for basketball and for the Raptors, and you compare them to the other 29 teams, the Raptors are killing it. They're killing it. And the other thing, which is amazing, is that, you know, you talk about, again, the number of people that come to the games, and you can look at other markets that are quote unquote basketball markets, and they have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 empty seats. So we're doing a great job in this market. And I've always said it was a sleeping giant and a hidden gem. But to me, I think we really missed that. We really missed that home court advantage, the buzz, the excitement that fans have for basketball, not only in Toronto, but across Canada. And I think players feel that. They really feel that. And they know that. And they know they're at a disadvantage. And, yeah, you have warm weather and you have no state income tax and things like that. Those are nice things. But I think ultimately, if you asked each player to a man, they'd rather be back here playing here.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. I've got a question here from one of our folks. If I recall correctly, Jack has 3 adopted Black sons. Does he have any lessons or stories about resiliency that he taught his sons?
Wow, a lot. I'll just say this. It's very interesting. When you look at what our society has gone through, and I did the whole thing about relationships. To me, it's pretty remarkable. I'll give you one experience I had with my youngest son, that I think says a lot. My youngest son, Tim, was at the park, and his cousin, Tom, who has blonde hair and blue eyes, shows up at the park, and he sees Tim. And they were probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old at the time. So my nephew, Tom, runs right over to Tim, and they see each other, and they high-five each other, and they hug each other because they're buddies, they're boys, right? And so now a kid at the park turns to my nephew, Tom, and says, "What are you doing? You just hugged that black kid." And Tom's like, "Huh? It's my cousin Tim. I love Tim." So he was like kind of off kilter. So he goes home that at night and says to my sister-in-law, "Mom, I had a kid say to me today, I shouldn't hug Tim. And he said to me, I shouldn't hug Tim because he's black. Mom, is Tim black?" There's your lesson. And wow,
Yeah.
pretty powerful out of the mouths of babes. So what I've tried to say to people is that that's taught. That's not within us. That's taught. That's taught. And if we're going to be better, we have to judge people on the quality of their character and the quality of their actions and the quality, all those things that really matter, not the color of their skin. So I've just tried to, as a coach as a basketball coach, predominantly the players I coach were African-American in my time as my entire career. And now working in the NBA for 23 years, and then obviously raising 3 African-American sons, I've tried to teach them that, hey, it's all about respect. It's all about love. It's all about trying to find the good in other people. And it's all about trying to be a good man. I mean, my sons are now 24, 23, 22. I got one out of college. One's about to finish. The other one will be finished in the next year. So I'm getting close. But I just try to say to them every day that, be a good man. Treat people with respect. And, that's it. But have they gone through stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But love overcomes all that, and I've said this when I was a coach, and I've said it to my players. I said, if we both stood here and I cut you and you cut me, what would be the color of the blood coming out of our skin? Both of us. They look at you like, it be red. I'm like, exactly. So we both cut and bleed the exact same way. We're brothers. We're sisters. So it's her. So it's too simple, but yet our society makes it way too complex. And the beauty of a little boy, the simplicity of it, I think tells you all you need to hear.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Those are great words and great lessons, quite frankly. So, okay, maybe on a lighter one, what has it been like to work remotely as a sportcaster?
It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard. I have the game on TV tonight. I'm used to the buzz, the mojo, the spirit, the excitement of being at the arena and seeing everybody and feeling it. I miss that, and playing off the crowd and having fun with it. It injects juice in you. Now you got to create your own juice. So I've done, have I done remote elements before? Yes. I'll tell you a very quick, funny story. Years ago, I did like the World Championships. I don't know if it was for Sportsnet or TSN. I can't remember. So it was a morning game, and Canada was trying to qualify. It was in the World Championships or something. It was an early morning game. They were overseas somewhere. So I did the game on television, and we're calling the game off of TV. So right after the game ended, I was playing at a golf tournament in the GTA. So I get my car and I drive over to the event, and this kid, you pull up with your golf bag, and the kid takes your golf bag and says, you're on hole 5A or whatever. And he says, "Oh my God, how did you get here from France?" I said, "Well, I got a special deal with TSN. I got a private jet." Like they don't realize, like we didn't tell them that we were calling the game remotely. He thought I was in Paris or Switzerland or wherever the hell the game was. But at least we tell the truth now. We're telling them, as we did when the games were in Orlando in the bubble in the summer, and now we're calling them from Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah.
That you know that we're not there. It is hard. Now what I do is I stand the entire game. I got to keep my juice going. I unbuckle my tie, and I'm walking back and forth like I'm coaching the game, because I feel like it's my responsibility. You're watching a game with no fans in the audience, no juice. So I feel like the players are trying to bring you as much juice as they can. And I feel like it's my obligation to try to bring you as much, if not more, so that your viewing experience is fun and lighthearted. And my job is to tell you why something happened and how something happened, and break it down and be technical and tactical and be the ex-coach kind of thing. But it's also, my job's not only to inform, my job's to entertain. And I try to do the best I can on both fronts. But it's a challenge, but it's a great opportunity space. I feel like I'm a better analyst now than I was 3 years ago. And I hope to be a better analyst 3 years from now or 5 years from now than I am now, if they keep letting me do what I'm doing.
I love that. Have you heard, how are the players keeping their energy up? To keep that motivation, and are different ones responding to it? I mean, some that missed the crowds and thrived off the crowd and played to the crowd, versus some that might have not not playing without the crowd.
Oh, I think they all miss the crowds. I mean, come on, we're it's showbiz. Who doesn't like to perform?
Yeah.
I like butterflies. I like having butterflies. I think that's good. For someone to sing, or to dance, or to act, or to perform as an athlete, or what I do for a living, which is pretty much show business. It's live TV. I'm not an actor. I don't get it's a live event. That red light comes on. I mean, a lot of times I say a lot of stupid stuff, but it's live TV. I can't walk it back. If you're an actor or actress, you can take 35 clips. You can take 35 takes before you get it right. So I love the pressure of live event. And I think
Yeah.
players love that. And I think they love performing in front of people. Now, I do think I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I do think I look at a guy like Josh Allen, their quarterback. I think it helped his development this year that much more in the to not have fans in the at the games. He was a lot calmer. He's a he's a high strung competitive guy. And you could even see it against Kansas City where he got a little uptight and started doing things out of what he did the entire year. Now he's got to grow and mature. He's got a whole nother step he still has to take when fans are back in stadiums. Knock wood, hopefully next year. But to me, I think for younger players, it's an easier environment to break into when you play road games because you don't have the pressure of playing on the road. So I think we're going to find out a lot more about young players when we start playing in front of fans again, and can they replicate what they're doing on the road when they actually have to do it in front of people.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got time for one last question, and I have to do this question because it came from our past chair of the Tournament of Stars, and he wants to know, should we trade Kyle? Is it right or fair to him and to the Raps? And I'm going to show you something. I don't know if you can see this, but I've got Kyle's jersey inside my, if you can see that, it's the emblem inside the my coat here. So huge Kyle Lowry fan. So yeah.
I tell you what, Paul, you got a big time tailor. You're big time right there with that jacket. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed. A few things. And this isn't just the Raptors. This is all four major sports. It's rare that you see players finish their careers with their team, and it's unfortunate. Like the late Kobe Bryant. I was reflecting on Kobe yesterday when the whole thing with Tiger Woods happened yesterday, and thank God he's alive, and please God he'll be able to get back on track soon. But I was reflecting on Kobe yesterday, and you think about Kobe playing his entire career with one team, or a Tim Duncan, or a Cal Ripken, or a Tony Gwynn, or whatever player you think of. I mean, and then you think of a guy like Wayne Gretzky, playing for a few different teams, and so many of the iconic players. It's a different world now. I mean, ask yourself this: how many players ever retire? Right? I mean, a lot of times they just fade away. They go away. The money's so good that you literally have to pry them out of the building. So I guess my point is I would love to see Kyle Lowry finish his career in Toronto. I think we all feel that way. I think the Raptors feel that way. The reality is you have a salary cap. You're in somewhat of a transitional year. He is a free agent at the end of the year. Norm Powell can opt out of his deal. He's playing himself into a big contract, whether it be here in Toronto or with one of the other 29 teams. And Kyle has the right, as an independent contractor, to seek out the best deal for him and his family from all 30 teams. So will Toronto and he sit down and try to work something out that makes sense for both sides? I'm sure they will, but he's also an independent contractor based upon a collectively bargained agreement between the players and the owners to shop his services other places too, and for whatever considerations in his life he'd like. So I don't get as worked up about it now as I used to. And I'm a huge sports fan. Basketball, hockey, baseball, football, you name it. I'm a huge sports fan. I look at it now and it's just a different world. But I do choose to reflect on and celebrate when the guy had the best stint of his career with a certain team. So whether Kyle is here next year or not, when I close my eyes and think of Kyle Lowry as an NBA player, and someday he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, he will be wearing a Raptor uniform in the Hall of Fame. When I reflect on Vince Carter, and the first game Vince Carter ever did ever played with the Raptors was the first game I broadcast 23 years ago. When Vince Carter someday goes in the Hall of Fame, and I close my eyes and think of Vince Carter as a pro, the team that comes to my mind is Vince Carter, is the Toronto Raptors, excuse me. So that to me is really what ultimately it's all about, because pro athletics now is a vagabond existence. And these guys are independent contractors, and they bounce from city to city. And I think, therefore, it's important that we celebrate the time that they're with us. And I would say, with what I do for a living, I think I've found now, having been here for 23 years, people connect more with the team through what we do because we're the constant. You know, I've been here through Vince Carter, Chris Bosh,
Yes.
DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, yada, yada, yada. And believe me, they've all made you-know-what more money than I'll ever make. But it's important to have stability, and it's important to have that. And but I will always choose to celebrate Kyle as a Raptor, and I'll always choose to celebrate Vince as a Raptor, and even a DeMar DeRozan, I would choose to celebrate him as a Raptor.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great response, and a fitting ending to our presentation today. So thank you, Jack. That was very insightful, some wonderful words of wisdom and advice for all of us, and some great insights. So thank you. So that concludes our special presentation, and thanks again to Jack for your inspirational talk and the lively Q&A. And thank you to everyone for joining us today and for your support of West Park. I hope to see you and Jack in March next year for the 4th Tournament of Stars. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Safe. Real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.